Hello and good evening to all of you. Today we will try to know one of the concept given in economy section, balance of payment. It's a quite significant topic as almost every alternate year the questions are asked, whether it is UPSC exam or any other state examination. So we will try to understand a brief history of this balance of payment and what is the present situation of this balance of payment. First of all, the balance of payment is a financial transaction of one country with the rest of the world in a definite period of time. In case of India, you can say that balance of payment is the all the records of all the financial transactions with the rest of the world in a definite period of time. This balance of payment has two components. The one is called the current account and another one is the capital account, not the saving. So what are the components of the current accounts and what are the components of the capital account? The difference will be called what? The current account deficit and capital account deficit. Basically, in this chapter, we need to develop a skill so that we could understand which components belongs to which one. If we understand this thing, majority of the questions are based on this idea only. So, I hope the definition is clear. All the monetary transaction of India with the rest of the world in a certain period of time. That certain period of time is what? The financial year. 1st of April to 31st March. This is the definite period of time. Now let's talk about the components. So, and this balance of payment is always balanced. How it will be balanced? We will understand it. Because that is the reason why it is called balanced. So in current account, there are certain items. The first is the export of goods. Actually, what happens when India does transaction? Either the money goes out or the money comes in. So when we export the goods, what will happen? If India is exporting the goods, let's assume India is exporting Tata Nano to USA. We will get the money in return or not? Yes. So the components, those will be on this side. It means they are bringing money on the Indian soil. So this export of goods, it will bring money into the pocket of India. In the same manner, what will happen that we don't only export, we also import. So on this side, the just counterpart of this thing will take place, and that is called the import of goods. Clear? The export of goods which will bring the money, and in the same manner, if we are purchasing anything, let's assume we are purchasing the watch which is very favorite of James Bond. There is no any movie of James Bond in which he doesn't wear the watch. And if he is wearing the watch, it means the whole universe is inside that watch. No matter how difficult the problem is, if he has watch, it means the solution is there. By the way, I have not watched the James Bond series for such a long time. There was a time when I was ready to miss everything, but not the movies of James Bond. Especially this Daniel Craig. There was a time when he used to be the most costliest franchisee in the world. So, if we are to purchase anything from any country, then the money will go outside. So, this is one of the transaction. The second transaction can happen in terms of services, export of services and import of services. Call centers in Greater Noida and especially in Gurgaon, they provide services to the US citizens because in India they get a cheap labor. The only problem is there that they had to work during night, because when in USA there is a day, in India we experience night. So this is the only problem, but they get the cheap labor. That's why the culture of call center is highly developed in India. So we are providing the services, we will get the money. In the same manner, we also import the services. We ourselves can get the service instead of providing the service to any other country. So this will bring the money, and this will, yes, the outflow of money will happen when the import of services will take place. Now let's talk about the third component. That is called unilateral flow of money. Unilateral flow of money. What kinds of components come within this unilateral flow of money? It may be the donation, it may be any gift, or it may be the remittance. You must know that India is the top country in the world in terms of remittance. It means most of the people from India, they work outside and they send a huge amount of money. However, India's population is also number one. We have defeated China, at least in no any other front, but certainly in the front of population. The Indian beds are more fertile than Indian farms. So unilateral flow of money, the donations, gift and remittance. In the same way, we also give gift, donations and remittance. If any Bangladeshi is working in India and he is sending money to his parents who are living in Bangladesh, will that money not be called remittance? But this proportion is very high in comparison to the money which is being sent out of India. So I am not writing, but you just assume the just opposite or the counterpart of this thing will take place, which will release money out of India and it will bring the money. So this export of goods, export of services, unilateral flow of money, and the fourth one is, any idea?
No idea.
You know Tata, Jamshedji Tata. Why are you thinking? So basically, Tata purchased Jaguar. It belongs to, I think, USA.
Okay.
So he spent lots of money when he purchased it. So what does it mean? He spent the capital over there. His capital is working on the lands of America or in America, UK. Okay. So whatever it is, you can replace it, UK or USA. The what is important, that what is basically the concept here. So whether it is UK or USA, so the money has been invested by Tata, and don't you think the money which has been invested there, he has started the company over there on that soil. Don't you think the Tata, when he will earn the money from that country because of the investment of the capital, will he not send a certain amount of money in India? After all, he belongs to India. So there is a possibility. If he is not sending any money, that's a different matter. There is always the possibility, because there are so many people like Tata. So since they have a connection with India, there is a possibility they may send the money on the Indian soil. So this is also one of the component which invites money in India, or you can say through this thing, through the investment of the capital on the foreign soil, we get the money. The just opposite happens in this case. Because what is happening in case of McD, KFC, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, they all are the foreign companies, foreign institutions. They have, their branches or their institutions, their subsidiaries in India, and earning the money and sending the money in their respective countries. So the money is coming and the money is going. These are the four components. Those are counted under the current account. And in this current account, there is not a big problem. Big problem, what kind of big problem? You will understand when I will discuss the capital account. Basically, look, capital account, it brings a sort of responsibility. Responsibility means, let's assume someone is, or FDI is coming, or FPI is coming. Don't you think it's a liability for India? It is a liability for India. Or you take the example NRI deposits. NRI deposits. Manohar's brother, he used to work in Saudi Arabia. So what was he doing? He was earning money from there and used to send the money
in India.
Yeah, so means let's assume he is depositing money in State Bank of India. NRI, the term NRI is clear or not? NRI, non-resident Indian. If you go the technical definition of it, anybody or any Indian citizen who is living more than 182 days out of India and his center of economic activities is also outside India, he will be treated an NRI. And majority of the Indian citizens, they live in Saudi and in these kinds of countries. So what happens when they are earning money there, they may deposit a certain proportion of that money in State Bank of India or any bank. So when they will deposit the money, don't you think it will be a liability for the respective bank? Because they may ask the money in the near future. So although the money is deposited in the SBI, this money doesn't actually belong to SBI. But in this case, you purchased the goods from India, everything became cancelled out at that time only. There is no any future relationship. But in this case, you have deposited the money, it will be the responsibility of the State Bank of India, because the money doesn't belong to State Bank of India. That person may ask his money to return. That's why all the components in the capital account, they have the nature of liability. NRI deposit is one of them. The sixth component is FDI and FPI or FII, foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investment, and foreign institutional investments. They all are the liabilities because they don't actually belong to India. They are investing the money. If the money is being invested in the form of infrastructure, that will be called FDI. By the way, this money is little difficult to get back, because if you are establishing any huge organization, so you cannot have the wall in your vessel and go return to your country. It is not practically possible. So that's why it is also called a stable sort of money, at least in comparison to this foreign portfolio and foreign institutional investment. Because with a single click in the computer, your whole money will get deposited in a different but this is somewhat difficult. Anyway, I don't want to discuss these terms, because my objective is not to elaborate these, but I am giving just a brief idea that all these things are the liabilities for India. Clear? So NRI deposit and FDI and then all this, you basically need to understand whether it's a liability, then it will be placed under the capital account. If there is no any liability sort of nature, then it will be placed in the, but majority of the components which come in the current account, these are the 4
इंश्योरेंस भी आता है कैपिटल में.
Insurance in terms of what?
इंश्योरेंस करते हैं ना लोग.
Insurance, look, basically means if any foreign country or investing something, insurance in that context. Okay, you first clarify the question, after that I'll discuss. So NRI deposit and FDI, FPI and FII, is it clear? Alright. Now the thing is this, that this NRI deposit, in the same manner what will happen, the same example, any Bangladeshi who starts working in India, earns the money from India and deposits,
बांग्लादेश में.
yes, in a bank of Bangladesh. So he will be
NRI.
a non-resident Bangladeshi. Maybe NRB is a term which is used, but you simply understand the NRI for Bangladesh. So non-resident Bangladeshi. So what will happen, that we were getting the money, and here any Bangladeshi who came to India and started working, when he will earn the money, he may send the money to,
बांग्लादेश.
yes, to any bank, or he may deposit the money in any bank which is located in Bangladesh. So just opposite is happening of this one or not. Money is coming and the money is going. In the same manner, the FDI, FPI and FII which are coming in India, we Indians also do FDI, FPI and FII. Not in very developed countries, but certainly like the countries Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka. Sometimes we also do, as ever since our Modi ji came, India is growing like anything. And those days are not far away when we will be Vishwaguru. Okay?
Okay.
So, this is also the sixth one, the same thing is being done by India. Now, you just understand or think that when you add all these things, let's assume it is coming how much? Let's assume it is 90 rupees. It means that all the transactions which were done by India with rest of the world, through those transactions we got the money how much? 90 rupees. But these counter transactions where the money of India is going, let's assume it is coming how much? 100. So we are in 10 rupees loss or not?
Yes.
Because we sold the goods of 90 rupees and purchased the goods of,
100.
goods means overall things, of 100 rupees. So we are in 10 rupees loss. So that 10 rupees will be placed here, and that will be known as the external borrowing, or you can also say foreign debt. Foreign debt. So 10 rupees foreign debt will be there, and it will be how much? 100, and it is already 100. So that is the reason why balance of payment is always balanced, because we always bring the same value after adding this financial foreign debt which we are getting from out of India. So these are the major components of the balance of payment. Balance of payment, it may be naturally equal, or it may be favorable in case of India, where we don't require any help from a foreign country in the form of a debt. And the third situation is this one. So the first is naturally equal, which is not possible. In the second, we are in the profit, and in the third we are in the loss. But whether we are in the profit or we are in the loss or we are in the equality, it will always remain balanced. That's why it is called balanced of payment. So these are the components which you need to keep in mind. Now some other things I want to tell you. You may have heard a term called trade deficit. It is very much given in the newspaper. Trade deficit. India's trade deficit is increasing like leaps and bounds. So the meaning of trade deficit, when you want to think about trade deficit, then you only need to concentrate on the factor number 1.
Goods.
Only the difference, export of goods and the imports of goods. Only the difference which is coming, that difference will be known as trade deficit. And why it is very much highlighted? Because since India is a developing economy, it is very difficult for us to have this thing in the surplus, because we are always in demand. Demand in the sense means we always ask something. So we are importing a lot in comparison to exporting, and that is the main reason why the Make in India campaign has been initiated by our government, because they want to reduce this trade deficit. As of now, this trade deficit is around 2% of GDP. 2%. So this is the trade deficit. We are, highly cautious about this component because it is very difficult to manage for India. The second thing is we are in the positive nature because we provide more services than we get the services from other countries. And the third one is also we are in the profit. As I have told you, India is the top country in terms of remittance. In the fourth one, we are in negative. But the overall current deficit, when we discuss or when I use the term current deficit, it means the four components: export of services, goods, originator flow of money, and this Tata. All these four components will be treated as a current account deficit within current account deficit. But if anyone is saying trade account deficit, it means we are talking only this one. And this is the main component, which is the main, you can say, responsible factor behind the whole current account deficit, because the proportion of this thing is the maximum within this current account deficit. If you are making it neutral or zero, believe me, there will be no any current deficit in India. So before the government of the day, which one is the biggest challenge? This one, the export of goods. What is the situation in capital account deficit? You tell me in my next lecture. Okay, so just wait for 4 or 5 minutes more. I have one more thing to discuss, because that thing is very much related to this balance of payment. I don't want to take a separate lecture for that thing. Okay, and you frame your question next time in the class properly, so that I could understand it properly and I could deliver the answer. So this was the balance of payment. Now I am going to rub it. Okay, you may have certainly heard the term called convertibility of rupee. Convertibility of rupee, Tarapur Committee.
1992.
Yes. Convertibility of rupee in case of current account deficit in India is how much? Fully. But why it is not fully in case of capital account? So in current account deficit, why we have the fully convertibility of rupee? Because look, there is no any liability sort of thing. If let's take the example, James Bond wants to purchase 1000 Maruti cars. Believe me, he can purchase it. There is no any restriction. He will come with his dollar, give the dollar to the RBI, and the dollars will be changed in the form of rupee, and he can purchase as many Maruti cars as he want. Because this transaction belongs to current account. And as I have told you that we have the fully convertibility of rupee in case of current accounts. So any transaction which belongs to this nature, you can fully convert your dollar in rupee or your rupee in dollar. The same way you can purchase as many Mercedes from Germany. Mercedes belongs to Germany. From Germany, as many you want. There is no any restriction. Why? Because this nature of transaction belongs to the current account. I hope it is clear. Okay, I'm means reducing my you can say explanation.
Hmm.
The second is the capital account. Why it is not fully convertible? Because it generates a sort of liability. You understand with the help of an example. You take the example of any businessman. Uh, what was the name of that one who was a big merchant? Nirav Modi. Nirav Modi. Or take the Vijay Mallya. Vijay Mallya, he has this Kingfisher Airlines. You know, he is not in a very, his financial health is not very good. So, what do you think? In India, nobody will give him the money or the loan. He goes to USA and from a bank he gets hundreds of crore rupees. What do you think? Is it possible for him to come with those hundreds of crore rupees to come in India? For him, is it possible to bring those hundreds of crore rupees in India? No, it is not possible, because this transaction belongs to capital in nature. It comes under the capital account. And in capital account, there is a limit decided by the Reserve Bank of India that you cannot have transaction more than this much percentage. By the way, this percentage is different for different things. That's why in FDI you may have heard that in certain sector only this much FDI is allowed, and in certain sections this much FDI is allowed. As far as the airlines is concerned, so I think means there is a certain amount that you cannot means there are so many airlines in India. So Reserve Bank has decided that all the airlines, they can get collectively, let's assume a certain 1000 crore. So if already means 500 crore has been taken by somebody, then the remaining 500 can be taken. So in this case, Vijay Mallya, he has the limitation. He alone cannot get as much as he wants, because his transaction belongs to the capital account. So this is the main reason that why we have not, by the way, we are increasing, or we are widening our doors to bring. Let's see by when the government of India is making even the capital account 100% or fully convertible. But because we right now we are not in a very comfortable situation, especially against the countries like US and big economies. That's why we are playing a safe game. If so many people are investing the money in FII, and in FII it is easy to get their money back, and when we are talking the transaction with respect to the world, then what will happen? So many people will invest the money in FII, and if we don't have the limitations means if we had the fully convertibility, then what would have happened? They would get the opportunity to get their money back as early as possible. But because we have the partial, so it is difficult for them. Because if suddenly the money goes out of the Indian market, then what will happen? We may face some sort of economic difficulty. Okay, so look, if you haven't understood this capital account and current account convertibility, I will explain it again in my next lecture. So this was as far as the balance of payment was concerned and the convertibility of rupee. in the current account and in the capital account. Namaskar.